Welcome to another episode of Okie Dokie Tech. Today I'm featuring the Panasonic ToughBook CF-31 MK4. This is originally released in 2010. Is a 15-year-old laptop relevant in 2025. It only has an Intel 3rd generation processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, which can be upgraded to 16 gigabytes, and it originally came with a spinning hard drive by Hitachi, which I have replaced with a 1 terabyte SATA SSD or solid state drive, which of course gives it a pretty good boost in speed. And I have Windows 11 installed on it, and surprisingly it runs very snappy. One of my favorite features of the Panasonic ToughBooks is the handle, because these things are thick and heavy. This one weighs about 9 pounds. Within the handle is a silo where the stylus can be stored. It's attached by a seemingly short tether, but the tether can stretch out to reach anywhere on the screen. The laptop itself is made of magnesium alloy, and it has rubber bumpers around to protect the corners. The port covers latch and unlatch and are sealed against the weather. So it's a very well made laptop. Now I'd like to give you the grand tour of the rest of the features of the Panasonic ToughBook CF-31. We'll flip it over. And the squeaking you hear is the rubber feet on this table. We've already talked about the handle with the stylus, but over here on the right you see a power button, and over here on the left, if I had it, would be a fingerprint reader, but I do not have it. The lid is securely latched with this latch, and when I raise the lid, one of the first things you notice is a rather small touchpad compared to especially something like a MacBook, but it works just fine. And above that you have the backlit emissive keyboard. It has 4 levels of brightness. The screen is a 4:3 screen ratio, which at one time that was pretty typical, but not these days. These days it's more like a 16:9 ratio. This one does have a webcam. Not all models do, but this one does. The webcam is not great quality, but 15 years ago hardly any of them were good quality, so this was kind of par for the course. Now let's take a look at the left edge. First of all, from left to right we have this trap door that sealed securely, but when you open it, one of the things you see up here at the top, I don't know if you can see it or not, there is a PC card slot and express card slot, and in addition to that is a physical on and off switch for all of the wireless radios, and beside that is a spring-loaded SD card slot. Below that is, in this one, I've got a DVD burner, but you can replace the DVD burner with a spare battery or another solid state drive in a caddy. And beside that we have the battery compartment, and it is easy to swap out the batteries. You don't have to have a screwdriver. These lock into place and then has a secondary lock. And above that is something very interesting. This is a cooling fan that is mud proof. You can drop this in mud and let it suck mud in, but the mud will stay within the fan because the fan assembly is sealed. So it will not ruin the computer if it gets dropped in the mud, which I find to be a pretty amazing feature. Now let's take a look at the back part of the computer. there's a door with a very strong latch. Sometimes it's hard to get it open. And within that door is two USB 2 ports. This is antenna connectors, and this is a connector for a docking station. And if you need to use that, you can close that door and open this sliding door here so that your dock will have access to these ports. Beside the docking port is a VGA legacy. If you have a VGA monitor, that might come in handy. And beside that we have a headphone jack and a microphone jack. Beside that is a serial port. We don't use a lot of serial ports today, but there are some industries that still use them. For instance, the automotive industry, some of their diagnostic equipment still attaches to a serial port. Now we'll take a look at the right-hand end of the ToughBook. This right here is a place to keep your hard drive caddy, which within this caddy is a 2.5-inch SATA SSD. And you can swap these out if you need to. I have several of them, some with Linux on them, one with Windows 10, one with Windows 11, which is in it right now. Beside that, we have an HDMI port, and below that you have a SIM card slot, because this does have a Gobi 5000 4G LTE cellular card in it, and the antennas for it. Beside that is an Ethernet jack. Beside that is a USB port, which I have a Bluetooth button in. This one, the Wi-Fi card has Bluetooth capabilities, but the driver currently doesn't support Bluetooth for some reason. So I put in a little Asus Bluetooth 5 card. And beside that is a USB 3 port. And of course the power port for plugging in your power cable. Besides these physical features, there are a few invisible ones, like the aforementioned 4G LTE Gobi 5000 card. It also has Wi-Fi, and through the Gobi card it also has GPS. You can also get GPS as a dedicated unit, but I find the one that's with the Gobi 5000 to be more than sufficient. You may be wondering just how tough is a ToughBook. Does it deserve the name? Well, I don't like my equipment to get scratched up and dented, so I haven't done very many tests of my own. Actually, I haven't done any tests of my own as to the toughness. The only thing that I can really say from personal experience, my grandchildren spilled a can of grape soda on the keyboard. I closed the ports, took it over to the kitchen sink, and ran cold water over it and let it dry out, and it was like it never happened. I don't know if that's really tough, but... And one time they got all excited playing a video game and stabbed the screen with the stylus, and all that happened was it put a dent in the screen protector. But a lot of people go to extremes to prove just how tough these are. So you might enjoy looking up on YouTube Tiger versus ToughBook, ToughBook versus ATV, ToughBook versus Snowmobile, ToughBook versus Compactor. And there's part of the Tiger versus ToughBook video also shows a large elephant balancing his weight on the ToughBook. So, and people run over them with trucks, and one guy was buried in sand, and then they washed it off with a fire hose. So they do some pretty terrible things to these to prove how tough they are, and they do live up to the ToughBook name. Windows 11 is installed and seems to be working rather nicely, so let's see how well it works on this 15-year-old computer. I'm going to use my non-technical timing method of a stopwatch program on the screen behind the ToughBook, and I'm going to try to turn the ToughBook on and hit the start button at the same time. I wasn't very good at clicking the button. I think it stopped at 42 seconds. But anyway, that's roughly how long it takes to boot Windows 11. That's not too bad for a 15-year-old computer. I'm recording now using a video capture device instead of the screen with the bars running up and down on it. That's what happens when you try to take a picture of a screen. But this way you don't have that problem, because in reality it does not have those bars running up and down the screen as far as the human eye can see. Anyway, let's take a look. We'll right click on the start button and go to Device Manager. And we have no missing drivers. What I did was installed Windows 11 24H2 and the one-click bundle that you download from Panasonic for Windows 10. And that installed most of the drivers. I did have to download the drivers for the Gobi 5000 card separately, and also the driver for the wireless switch I had to download separately. But surprisingly, it works very well. Battery life is pretty good. It says I have 4 hours and 40 minutes time left at 50% of the battery remaining, so that's pretty good for a battery that may be as old as 15 years old. Just to verify this is running Windows 11, let's look at this PC. We'll right click, go to Properties, and this is what it tells us, that we have 909 gigabytes of storage. They call it 1 terabyte, but it's not. The graphics card is able to use 32 megabytes, not gigabytes, but megabytes of RAM. That's an old Intel HD Graphics 4000 that was typical of the time when this was sold. We have 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. We have a i5 3340M processor running at 2.7 gigahertz, and I named the device CF-31 MK4, Windows 11 Pro, version 24H2. You may be wondering, what can I do with a computer that only has 32 megabytes of video RAM? One thing, we can use the GPS viewer. This is interesting because it doesn't have a dedicated GPS card. It's simply using the GPS function of the Gobi 5000 cellular card. And I'm in the attic, the middle of the attic. And if I wait a little while, it will see anywhere from 5 to 7 satellites in the attic. I don't have any GPS software installed. Like I have an old copy of Microsoft Trips and Streets, or Streets and Trips, whichever it was. But anyway, while we're waiting for that to pick up other satellites, let's also look at gaming. Light gaming, you can play things like card games, solitaire, free cell, mahjong. You can use Office applications to create documents. Let's see, here we are watching YouTubes. It can watch YouTubes at 720p, and it plays them fairly smoothly. We'll put on Stats for Nerds, and there are no dropped frames. This guy is going to bury the... Oh, he already did it. He buried it in the sand and then dug it up, and the keyboard was not messed up. So you can watch YouTubes. You can also play Nintendo Entertainment System, NES emulated games, and Super Nintendo emulated games. So it can do a fair amount of things that you wouldn't think maybe it could do. My grandson had Roblox installed on it. I never watched him play it, so I don't know how well it ran, but I do know it ran. So it's not as limited as you might think it would be. As it turned out, it was just the video that I was watching that only showed up in 480p. This one is running at 1080p. I tried it at 2K and 4K and it dropped frames at those speeds, but you can watch 1080p videos. Let's see. Oh, it's picked up a bunch more satellites, but we got to wait for them to turn green before they're usable. And it might take them a while to turn green in the attic. But it does work. Now I'm going to turn off Secure Boot in the BIOS. Disabled. Escape. Go over to Exit, Save Values, and Reboot. Let's see how long it takes. I forgot to hit the stopwatch. For it to boot into Linux Mint. A little bit longer than what it took to boot into Windows 11. And there we have Linux Mint. Let me switch over to screen capture device. Here we are at the Linux Mint 22 desktop. We'll look at a few things here. This is the system information. It's running the Cinnamon version of Linux Mint. Also, if we want to play some games, there's card games just like everywhere else. Let's close that. We have our terminal where you can enter commands if you know what commands to enter. And we have Firefox running a YouTube. Stats for Nerds. No dropped frames, but it is running at a lower resolution. Let's see if we can bump it up. Quality 480p. No, it looks like 480p is the best it's going to get. I don't know if that's a limitation of this particular video or the video card, but anyway, it's watchable at 480p. This is one of those videos of nasty things they do to ToughBooks. So Linux Mint is running very well. Now we're going to test booting into Windows 10. And it looked like that took 44 seconds. I was a little slow hitting the stop button. 44 seconds. So they're all kind of neck and neck, being 40-some seconds to boot to a desktop. This completes my video review of the Panasonic ToughBook CF-31 MK4. It's not a gaming beast, but it can do lightweight gaming. You can create documents with it, do email with it, watch YouTubes with it, things like that. The area where it shines is its durability. It was created to serve the needs of the military, police, firefighters, rescue, construction workers, and can even survive small children and animals. I've enjoyed making this video. If you have enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe. I plan soon to do a video review of Panasonic's ToughBook CF-31 MK4, and I hope to do that very soon. Thank you for watching.